Somewhere in your truck right now, there's probably a blue and yellow can that you have been using for one job your entire life. Something squeaks, you spray it. Something is rusty, you spray it. And that is about where most drivers stop. But after spending enough time around working trucks, old mechanics, stubborn hardware, frozen latches, greasy tools, and trailers that seem personally offended by the idea of coming apart, you learn something. WD-40 can do a lot more than quiet a squeaky hinge. Now let me straighten something out before somebody unloads on me in the comments. WD-40 is not magic. It is not the correct product for every mechanical job, and it is definitely not a replacement for grease, engine oil, penetrating oil, electrical contact cleaner, or proper maintenance. And despite the title, good truck mechanics are not sitting in some secret room trying to hide a can of WD-40 from you. But there are dozens of small jobs shops get paid to handle that, and owner-operator can often deal with in minutes, simply because nobody ever showed them the little tricks. Today, I'm giving you 21 of them. A quick safety rule: first, use aerosol products only on cool equipment with the engine off, away from flames and hot exhaust components. Never spray WD-40 on brake rotors, brake drums, brake pads, tires, drive belts, pedals, steering friction surfaces, or anything that depends on friction to keep a 40,000-pound truck under control. With that understood, let's start with the one every driver with an older trailer eventually learns. Trick number 1, freeing a stubborn trailer door latch. You finish a long run, you walk around back, grab the door handle, and it feels like somebody welded it shut. Usually they did not. What you're fighting is corrosion, dried grime, and moisture working their way into the latch pivots. A small amount of WD-40 on the external pivot points can soften old grime and displace moisture. Give it time to work. Then move the latch gently instead of immediately trying to beat it open. That last part matters. A lot of broken trailer hardware starts with a driver using 300 pounds of anger on a $10 pivot. Clean it first, work it slowly, then once it is moving properly, use whatever long-term lubricant the component manufacturer recommends. WD-40 gets things moving. Proper lubricant keeps them moving. Trick number 2, the toolbox padlock that suddenly hates you. Every trucker with an exterior toolbox knows this one. Monday morning the lock works. Tuesday morning it feels like the key belongs to somebody else's truck. Road spray carries water, dirt, salt, and grime straight into exposed locks. A small application around the mechanism can help push moisture out and loosen the crud that is making the lock stick. Work the key gently several times. Do not force it, because snapping a key off inside an exterior toolbox lock is the kind of 5-second mistake that can ruin your next 45 minutes. For long-term lock lubrication, use the proper dry lock lubricant. But when you're standing in a parking lot and the lock simply needs to move again, this is one of those jobs where that little can earns its space in the truck. Trick number 3, hood latches. This one gets ignored until the hood refuses to cooperate. Truck hood latches live in a terrible environment. Rain, salt, dust, engine bay contamination, heat cycles. Eventually, the external latch mechanism gets stiff. Instead of waiting until you're parked on the shoulder fighting the hood because you need to inspect something, clean the latch area during normal maintenance. A light application can loosen old grime around the moving external parts. Then exercise the latch several times. Afterward, apply the correct lubricant for long-term protection. That 5-minute inspection is a whole lot easier in your yard than on the side of Interstate 40. Trick number 4. Trailer electrical connectors after moisture gets in. Notice exactly how I worded that. I'm talking about moisture around an unplugged connector, not spraying live electrical equipment. Turn everything off. Disconnect the plug. Inspect it. WD-40 was originally developed as a water-displacing product, and that is one of the jobs it is genuinely useful for. A small amount can help remove moisture from certain external metal connector areas, then wipe everything clean and dry. If the terminals are green, burned, loose, badly corroded, or heat damaged, spraying something on them is not a repair. That connector needs proper attention. For delicate electronics and sensors, use an electrical contact cleaner specified for the job. You need to know the difference between removing moisture and fixing electrical damage. Trick number 5, the seized receiver hitch pin. Pickup owners, hotshot drivers, and anybody using a receiver hitch knows what happens when a steel pin lives underneath a truck through 2 winters. One day it stops being a hitch pin and becomes part of the truck. Rust forms between the pin and receiver before reaching for bigger and bigger hammers. Clean the exposed area and use WD-40 to loosen surface corrosion. Give it some time, work the pin rather than simply attacking it. For severe corrosion, a dedicated penetrating oil may work better, but this is exactly why I tell people to maintain these things before they seize. 5 minutes once in a while beats wrestling underneath a truck when you're trying to change trailers. Trick number 6, landing gear crank handle pivots. I'm not telling you to spray WD-40 into the landing gear gearbox. That needs the correct lubricant. I'm talking about the exposed crank handle pivot and small external moving joints that collect road grime. When that handle starts feeling stiff, clean the pivot and work it back and forth. Sometimes what feels like a bigger landing gear problem is simply contamination at the part your hand is actually moving, and this is a pattern you're going to hear throughout this video. Diagnose before you replace. Clean before you condemn. Trick number 7. Sticky battery box and side compartment latches. Commercial trucks have little latches everywhere. Battery box, side box, sleeper compartment, storage compartment. And because they sit low on the truck, they get blasted with everything the tires throw backward. When a latch becomes stiff, clean the external mechanism instead of waiting until the little handle snaps off. A light water-displacing cleaner can free the movement, then use the proper long-term lubricant where required. The expensive part is rarely the spray. The expensive part is replacing the thing you broke because you ignored it for 2 winters. Trick number 8. Removing old adhesive from truck surfaces. You remove an old permit sticker, a fleet number, a dealership decal, a piece of reflective tape. The sticker comes off. The glue decides it wants to stay with the truck forever. On compatible surfaces, a small amount of WD-40 can soften adhesive residue enough to wipe it away. But test a hidden area first, especially around painted, coated, plastic, or vinyl surfaces. Use a soft cloth. Do not start scraping paint with a screwdriver like you're opening a paint can. When the residue is gone, wash the surface so you do not leave an oily film. Simple job, cleaner result. Trick number 9. Road tar on lower body panels. If you run highway miles, you know the black specks, tar, asphalt residue, sticky road grime that normal soap barely touches. On a compatible painted metal surface, a small amount of WD-40 can help soften stubborn tar. Again, spot test first, let the product work. Then wipe gently and wash the area afterward. The mistake people make is scrubbing aggressively. The chemicals should be doing most of the work. If you are grinding dirt into clear coat with a dry rag, you are solving one problem and creating another. Trick number 10. Bug residue on metal and chrome. Anybody who has driven through summer knows what the front of a truck looks like after several hundred miles. It becomes an insect museum. Bug residue can dry hard on chrome and painted metal. A little WD-40 can help soften stubborn residue on appropriate surfaces before washing. Do not spray it onto hot headlights, a hot grill, radiator surfaces, or anything hot enough to make aerosol use unsafe. Cool truck, small area, soft cloth, wash afterward. The trick is softening the mess before trying to scrub it off. Trick number 11, keeping hand tools from becoming orange overnight. This one matters if your tools live in an exterior compartment. Humidity gets in, condensation gets in, and suddenly the wrench you paid good money for starts developing surface rust. After cleaning your steel hand tools, a very light protective film can help keep moisture away during storage. Then wipe away the excess. You're not trying to marinate the toolbox, you just want a thin barrier. Sockets, pliers, breaker bars, adjustable wrenches. Those are the things that usually benefit. And here's an important exception. Do not leave lubricant on lug nut threads or wheel studs unless the truck manufacturer specifically calls for it. Lubricated threads can change the relationship between applied torque and clamping force. That is not a place to improvise. Trick number 12, freeing pliers and cutters that have gone stiff. Every toolbox eventually has that pair. The handles move about halfway, and then the tool acts like it is 50 years old. Usually grime and light corrosion have built up around the pivot. Clean the joint, apply a small amount. Work the handles repeatedly. Wipe away everything that comes out. You would be surprised how many worn-out hand tools are actually just dirty tools. Again, once it is clean and moving, use the correct lubricant if the tool maker specifies one. Trick number 13, the ratchet handle that refuses to release your socket. You press the release button. Nothing, you press harder. Still nothing before turning a $20 ratchet into a hammer. Inspect the mechanism. Dirt can collect around the release button and detent. A small amount used for cleaning around the external mechanism followed by repeated operation and a good wipe down may restore movement. If the ratchet itself is failing internally, replace or service it properly, but dirty and broken are 2 completely different diagnoses. Trick number 14, truck door hinges. A door hinge squeak sounds harmless until you start noticing the door does not swing as freely as it used to. Cleaning contamination from the exposed hinge joint can restore movement temporarily. WD-40 is excellent at loosening grime and displacing moisture, but this is where one of the biggest myths comes in. For a heavy truck door hinge, I do not rely on regular WD-40 as the permanent lubricant. Clean it, free it, then use the appropriate grease or hinge lubricant for lasting protection. Think of WD-40 as the guy who gets the rusty door open. The grease is the guy who keeps coming back to work. Trick number 15. Sleeper and cabinet hardware. Long-haul trucks vibrate. Constantly, cabinet hinges, small latches, bunk hardware, seat base hardware, and storage mechanisms live through millions of little movements. When a non-safety critical hinge or latch gets gummy, a small cleaning application can help remove the grime causing it. But be careful around upholstery, flooring, and fabrics, because petroleum-based products can stain certain materials. Put it on the mechanism, not the whole sleeper. Precision beats enthusiasm. Trick number 16. Freeing rusty license plate and mud flap bracket hardware. Small exposed fasteners can be the most annoying ones on the entire truck. They are too insignificant to maintain until the day you actually need to remove them. license plate bolts, mud flap bracket hardware, light brackets, small exterior mounts. Clean around the exposed threads and give the product time to work. For badly seized fasteners, step up to a real penetrating oil. That distinction matters. Regular WD-40 can loosen light rust and contamination. A dedicated penetrant is engineered for stubborn seized hardware. Knowing when to change products is part of knowing what you're doing. Trick number 17. Chain binder threads and external pivots. Flatbed drivers, listen carefully because this one needs a boundary. I'm talking about maintaining certain metal threaded and pivoting parts according to the binder manufacturer's instructions. I'm not talking about spraying cargo straps or making load securement surfaces slippery. Dirty binder threads can become difficult to operate. Cleaning exposed grime and corrosion can make inspection easier and help you see whether the equipment is actually damaged. If a binder is bent, cracked, badly worn, or otherwise questionable, no aerosol fixes that. Take it out of service. Cargo securement is not the place for good enough. Trick number 18, freeing an old adjustable wrench. I know this sounds almost too basic to include, but go open a truck toolbox that has been sitting through a humid summer. Grab the oldest adjustable wrench. Turn the thumb wheel. There's a decent chance it barely moves. That worm gear collects dust, rust, grease, and whatever else has been floating around the box. Clean it. Use a little WD-40 to loosen contamination. Run the jaw all the way open and closed several times. Then wipe it clean. You just recovered a tool people often throw away because they think the mechanism is worn out. Trick number 19. Protecting spare metal hardware in storage. A lot of owner-operators carry spare bolts, pins, brackets, and miscellaneous steel hardware. Then 6 months later, they open the container and everything inside looks like it came off the Titanic. Before storing clean bare steel spare hardware, a thin moisture-displacing protective film can slow surface corrosion, keep those parts labeled, keep them separated from electrical parts, and anything that needs to stay completely clean, and before installation, clean them as required. Storage protection and assembly lubrication are not the same thing. That distinction saves a lot of mistakes. Trick number 20, removing greasy fingerprints and shop grime from metal surfaces. You finish a maintenance job. The chrome, the metal toolbox, the painted bracket, everything has greasy fingerprints on it. A small amount on an appropriate metal surface can help cut oily residue before the final wash. This is particularly handy after working around greasy trailer components where ordinary water just moves the oil around. Do not use it on steering wheels, pedals, grab handles, steps, or walking surfaces where an oily residue could create a slipping hazard. That is one of those little details people forget. A surface can look cleaner and be less safe. Always wipe it dry and wash where appropriate. And now we get to number 21. This one is less about where you spray WD-40 and more about knowing where you absolutely do not. Trick number 21, use the can as a diagnostic tool, not a universal repair. This is the lesson I wish more people understood. You hear a squeak, you see corrosion, something sticks. Your first instinct is to spray the entire area until the problem disappears. That can actually hide the thing you needed to diagnose. A worn bushing can squeak. A failing bearing can squeak. A damaged hinge can bind. A bad electrical connection can act intermittent. A failing latch can feel stiff. WD-40 may temporarily quiet or free something without repairing the underlying wear. So my rule is simple. Clean the area. Identify what is actually moving. Use the smallest amount needed. Inspect the part again. If the noise or stiffness keeps returning, find out why. And never use a lubricant to silence something that is supposed to tell you a component is failing. That is the difference between using a product intelligently and just spraying problems until you cannot hear them anymore. And before we finish, I want to give you the 5 places where that blue and yellow can does not belong. Not on your brakes, not on your tires, not on your serpentine or accessory belts, not inside delicate sensors like a mass airflow sensor, and not as a substitute for the specified grease or oil in a component that carries serious load. I would add one more. Never spray an aerosol product around a hot exhaust system, open flame, or other ignition source. That should be obvious, but some lessons are cheap when somebody says them out loud and expensive when nobody does, and that is really the point of these 21 tricks. None of them is going to magically turn a neglected truck into a million-mile machine. What they do is make small jobs easier, a latch that lasts instead of snapping, a toolbox that opens when you need it, hardware that comes apart instead of becoming a 3-hour fight, tools that do not rust themselves into retirement, a connector you inspect before assuming the entire electrical system has failed. Those little jobs add up, because if you run a truck for a living, the expensive part is not always the component. Sometimes the expensive part is the hour you lose fighting with it. Sometimes it is the roadside call. Sometimes it is the shop minimum. And sometimes it is replacing a perfectly usable part because nobody took 5 minutes to clean it first. That is the kind of old school thinking I want to bring back on this channel. Understand the machine, keep it clean, catch the small problems while they are still small, and know which product belongs on which job. I'm Brad Stanley, and this is Big Rig Wisdom. If you have been around trucks for a few decades, I want to hear from you. What is the smartest WD-40 trick an old mechanic or old trucker ever showed you? Put it in the comments. And if you want more practical advice on keeping semi-trucks, diesel engines, trailers, and work trucks alive without automatically handing every problem to a dealership, subscribe to Big Rig Wisdom, because in the next one I'm breaking down the cheap maintenance mistakes that can turn into some of the most expensive diesel repairs you will ever pay for.